All right. Welcome to another episode of Both Sides of the Bed. Episode 2.
Episode 2 already.
Yes, episode 2. How you feeling?
I feel really good. I'm excited to be shooting with you. This is great.
Excellent. So we're going to start opening our episodes with a sex fact for the people. So what's today's sex fact going to be?
Today's sex fact is, while 75% of men always reach orgasm during sex, only 29% of women report the same. In addition, most women are unable to climax through vaginal intercourse, instead needing clitoral stimulation. That is from the National Health and Social Life Survey.
I've heard this quite often over the last few years.
Yes, the orgasm gap.
Yeah, so I can't say that I'm surprised. I figured, if anything, 90% of men orgasm during sex. But that's an interesting number.
Yeah, 75%.
So, why do you feel that women tend to have issues with coming during sex?
Well, I wouldn't say
issues. But why don't more women orgasm during sex?
Well, during intercourse, vaginal intercourse, I think it's because most of our pleasure centers or pleasure sensations come from our clitoris. There are 8,000 nerve endings there geared towards pleasure. And when you're just in the vaginal canal, you're not stimulating all those nerve endings. So it's just like a lot of pleasure neglect, if you will, that's happening when that's not stimulated. Also with women layering, so with eating them out before sex during foreplay, massaging them, even kissing their neck, like it's foreplay is a really big thing that enhances the sexual experience of a female body. So just incorporating those things, it really enhances that, and it doesn't happen as much as it should. It's really just kind of like, let's just warm this up and get it wet and just slip in there. Okay. So I don't know. I think I think it's a lack of understanding of the woman's body. So
not enough foreplay and not enough clitoral stimulation.
Not enough foreplay.
You hear that, fellas? Not enough foreplay and not enough clitoral stimulation. I can attest to the lack of clitoral stimulation in the past. That's not an area that I used to focus my attention on until I really realized the power of the clit. And yeah, with foreplay, like, a lot of times we don't really care about foreplay as much. It seems like more of a y'all thing. So one thing that at least helped me was genuinely trying to have fun with it myself and not just focus on, okay, you need foreplay, so I'm gonna give you foreplay. It's like, all right, how can I make foreplay enjoyable for me? So whether that's dirty talk while we're sitting on the couch watching a movie, and something comes up, just to get the juices flowing. So hey, there's sex on the brain. There could be some sex happening soon. I know that kind of gets you going. Sensual touching, things like that. Trying to get reactions out of you. Things like that would really help me with the foreplay and taking my time. Yeah. Taking your time is definitely important. It takes 20 to 40 minutes to really warm up a woman's body to prepare for sex. And what you said earlier about, dirty talk, even like when you see a scene in a movie, just foreplay should begin. I heard this one coach say that, I forgot her name, but foreplay should begin at the end of the last sex session. So it's just foreplay should be, it shouldn't be just like the 20 to 40 minutes before sex. It should be happening all day, just the flirtation, the kissing, the caressing, the, implied touch, all of it. It really enhances just keeping sex on the brain, preparing the body, right. Stay ready, not to get ready. And that helps even beyond being able to orgasm more during sex. I just feel like that helps keep things spicy just in the relationship throughout your days, weeks, months, years as time goes on. So I definitely feel that.
It really amplifies desire and just feeling wanted and feeling sexy. Right. And wanting to explore that, So right. It's definitely important.
So let's get those numbers up.
Yes.
So what do we take from this? So foreplay, much more foreplay, and we'll definitely have episodes where we dive more into specifics on things you can do to incorporate more foreplay into your relationships, but focusing on that and get that clit activated. So now for today's episode. So the title of today's episode is, what do you really desire and how to get it? and emphasis on really, because if you ask anybody, they're gonna name off things that they desire sexually or just in their relationships with their partners. But going beyond just what initially comes up, like what do you really, really want out of your relationships? You know, and really answering that truthfully for yourself without any limitations, and holding back based on whatever. You know, so what do you really, really want?
Yeah, I think answering that question really calls for you taking a look inside of yourself and what do you really value? What do you really want for your life? I think especially people who are already in relationships, we get clouded with what would they accept or what will my partner want? But really just like taking a step back, take back all your different hats and layers of yourself and just say, what do I want?
Right.
Like just me, Basirah. What do I want? What do I desire? And just communicating that.
And it seems like such a simple question that you would ask, but you know, we found a continued theme in conversations that we have with friends and family members and people we meet out in the scene, you know, of people not being fulfilled in their relationships, number one, fully in what that is, and then definitely when it comes to sex, you know, and truly being satisfied, actually content and satisfied, and just checked off all their boxes. You know, we found that the vast majority of people are just not experiencing that for themselves. You know, so this conversation is really important to me, and I really hope that this benefits the viewers and listeners as we dive into this.
Yeah, it's definitely important to not only identify what you are truly wanting and desiring in your relationships and in your sex life, but how to communicate that. Just knowing it is one thing, and just having the proper language to express that to someone else to in a way that would make them want to explore that with you. It's a whole different ballgame.
Right. So let's start off first with what kind of relationship structure do you want? Because I think a lot of the struggles that people have in their relationships is they're trying to cultivate a relationship that they don't even really want. And so it's two people trying to do a thing that they don't really want because maybe they're afraid to share with their partner what they really want, or maybe they don't even know all the options that are available to them. So I think we should start there with the different types of relationship structures that there are and what's possible, you know, at least touching on the general structures there are, because there's obviously endless ways of going about it. There's no one set way of going about a relationship, but at least let's talk about the main options that are out there. So number one, we got monogamy. That's the age-old way of going about it, you know, where you have decided to be with one person. And there's a lot of stuff happening. There's a lot of stuff that we hear about downing being in monogamous relationships these days. I'm hearing more people coming at that relationship structure. Me personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with being monogamous within itself. I think if two people say, hey, I love you and I only want to be with you, maybe having multiple partners is too exhausting. It's too much energy that it takes to do that. Yeah. Maybe they're scared about catching something, or maybe they're just so in love that they're just satisfied. They don't desire anybody else. And if two people come together and they make that conclusion for themselves, I think that's a beautiful thing. Absolutely do that for sure. But if we're being honest, the vast majority of people don't really want that, but they feel that that's the way you're supposed to do it. And so they try to force a round peg into a square hole.
Exactly. There's a lot of societal and cultural norms that push monogamy as if this is like the type of relationship or the only or the ideal relationship to have. And it doesn't work for a lot of people. And I think the biggest telltale sign of that is infidelity. Just trying to have these monogamous relationships and then being unfaithful in it, because that's really not the type of relationship you desire.
Right.
Or the type of relationship that you can just uphold.
Right.
So, yes, monogamy is one. Another one is polyamory. So having multiple partners, real full relationships with more than one partner. And polyamorous relationships, they're very they're very eclectic. There's so many different ways that you can go about it. It could be that we are in a relationship and I have multiple partners and you don't because you don't desire them. It could be that we are in a polyamorous relationship and both of us see the same partners, or we see some of the same and you see others and I see others. There's so many different ways that we can go about polyamory.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this, is that there's no rule book of one way you're supposed to do anything. And so you can really customize your relationship to suit your needs. Yeah. And that's exciting to me. And so I know we've been having a lot more conversation centered around polyamory these days and really exploring, what makes sense for us. And just in what we've learned, I definitely encourage people to just learn about it. You don't necessarily have to dive into something like that because it is a lot, especially if you've already been in a relationship for quite some time with your partner. Shifting into a new way of doing things can be challenging and take time, but I definitely encourage people to just learn what polyamory is about, if you want that. Now, that is a little bit more evolved though, because you can just have a general open relationship where you're not really inviting others into your relationship, but you do have multiple partners that you engage with in a sexual way, which requires less work because y'all already know what time it is. Y'all linking up to have fun, and then everybody goes their separate ways. There's no continued conversations and hanging out and feelings developing as much as you would experience in a polyamorous relationship. And so for us, that's how we started. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
I don't know. I think I always kind of liked the term open relationship. Like I think I like that label more than a polyamorous one. Though I think by definition we are leaning more towards a polyamorous type of vibe. Yeah. Because we do have other people that we see, and with that it goes deeper than just a sexual relationship.
Right.
There's feelings, there's emotion, there's real just feelings there.
Right. I think it enhances our experiences with our partners because there is a genuine interest in the other person, and there is building and there is feelings involved and connection outside, like getting to know somebody and actually genuinely liking them. For us it works, and so that's kind of the world that we're in right now. But let's even keep it just general open relationship for the sake of ease, for maybe somebody who doesn't know how far they want to go down a rabbit hole, but knows maybe monogamy might not be enough. So for us, we were able to identify very quickly that we wanted something open. And I know for me, even before we met, I knew that my next relationship, that I was going to be in an open relationship. And so I think that's important, knowing what you want, if you can, before you even get into it, so you can seek out that partner, so you're not wasting time with people that just don't fit into what you want.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really hard for people who desire a polyamorous relationship or open relationship, and they end up falling in love with a monogamous person. It causes a lot of friction and a lot of confusion and a lot of compromise that maybe isn't worth making.
Right.
So.
And yeah, I know for myself, because I used to go to sex parties off and on throughout the years, and I remember in the beginning when it was brand new, it was like, oh, okay, well, this is fun. I like this, but I know eventually I'm going to have to go back into the real world when I find somebody else to be with, and I won't be able to share this with that person. For the person I really want, someone who I'm wildly physically attracted to, who is also as sexually explorative as I am, and who can satisfy my needs, who I can build a home with, who I can see myself having a family with, who I could bring home to my parents, all of those other things, and to have this healthy sex life. I just didn't see it being possible. But as time went on and me continuing to explore in those areas, I realized there's no going back. Like, I know whoever I'm gonna be with, I'm gonna need them to be open to this, and we gonna need to be able to do this together, because I just can't see monogamy working for myself. And lucky I found you.
Lucky
and it
you
all
found
worked.
me.
I got all of what I wanted and more.
Yeah.
But it was important for me to have that time to myself to explore so I can identify what I definitely don't want and what I do want. So when it came time for us to meet, I was able to be very upfront with you right away in terms of my past experiences and what I'm looking for now. And you were able to let me know that you were down for that.
It definitely didn't come, so seamlessly for me. I come from a family where polygamy is a thing. Like my father was a polygamist. He had multiple wives at different times, and I have a lot of siblings. And I don't know, I feel like I've saw just the product of it going in a really negative way. Like there's a this large disconnect that I wish didn't exist in our family, but does. And I think that it's a product of being in a polygamous relationship or polygamous lifestyle that wasn't the most well-rounded. So I think that's even my hang up on just even the label of polyamory versus just open.
Right.
Because I saw just the negative aspects that it can breed, and I don't want that for my life, and I never really did. So you enter the picture. Being open sexually, that was never really a problem for me. I always kind of wanted that for myself, but for our relationship, like our partnership, our life partnership, that was a different story, and it took exploring it and being in it and meeting people and having these experiences with them to really understand that I can see this for myself, and it doesn't have to be, the example that I had.
Right.
But it definitely took a lot to get there.
Right. And I think that brings up a good point of the fact that others may have certain experiences, and we all may know people who do different things for themselves, and we base what we want out of our judgment of what their experience is.
Yeah.
Other people's experiences is their experience. That doesn't mean that has to be your experience at all.
Like, it's not the experience.
Exactly. You have full control and say over what type of experience you have, as long as you're communicating that with your partner and both of y'all are on the same page. In my opinion, it's all good.
Yeah, and there's so much communication that goes into, opening up your relationship. Like we were together for a year and a half before we actually did it, but the whole time we've just had discussions about it.
From day one.
Yeah, just expressing that desire, expressing that that desire, just wanting to really know what that is like, to experience it and to at least try it out. I always say to you, let's try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't, let's not do it again. And if it does, let's keep going.
Right.
And I think that's such a vital thing for you and I in having the type of relationship that we want and being open about the desires that we have of let's just try it instead of just like forcing ourselves in the box of, well, I don't think I'll like it, or I know myself, so I know I won't like that. Let's try it, because as much as we know about ourselves, you learn something new every day. At least I do, and I learn through experience.
Exactly. And the good thing about it too is you can put it down. Also, you don't have to stay stuck in, okay, we're doing this now, I'm committed to this, we've agreed we're going to do this, and feel pressure to uphold it. If it doesn't suit you and it doesn't work and you've tried it and you realize, I like that, but don't like any of these things that we said that we wanted to do, just let it go.
Yeah.
Or if you want to take a break, maybe there might come a point in our relationship where any other partner might be too much. And so we can communicate that to our partners, to each other, and not feel any pressure, and we can just do our thing or take time to invest in our relationship and whatever our needs are. So I love it. I love the freedom that's possible for us, and there's no pressure ever.
Yeah, and it also brings us so much closer. I think every time we have an experience with whether we're going on a date with somebody else or whatever it is, if we're just like looking online on dating apps or something like that, it's a different type of bonding that it's like we're homies.
Right.
Where it's a different type of communication that we have, and it's fun. It's fun to like also witness you flirt with somebody, and I guess vice versa. It's a very different dynamic that it breeds, and it allows so much freedom and connection that I didn't really think was possible. I thought I would feel more. I don't know. I think I thought it would be more like, well, I'm gonna do this for you. You know, like this is something that you want, that you desire, so I'm going to do this to fulfill this desire for you. Let's try it out. And it ended up being something so mutually beneficial, especially for me being bisexual. It allows me to have those experiences with other women with you.
Right.
And I don't know, it creates a lot of balance for me.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I remember in the beginning, I wasn't really sure exactly how it would unfold in terms of what kind of partners we would have and how we would feel about it. But yeah, you definitely hit it on the head with the homie feel. I think like that's the foundation that we have, and like our taste in women is the same, and just how we think and view the whole thing is really like friends. So like I have my boys and I remember through the years when I was single and I had my boys to share my experiences with, it still has that same feel, but now it's with my woman. And so it's like on a whole nother level, and we're experiencing them together, and we have our relationship. And so it's so beautiful that we were able to come to that place where it really feels like we're best friends in that. And I was a little worried about how it was going to go, just in terms of like if other men came into the picture at some point. I remember like we started having conversations about men specifically because we started with women. And I knew that in the beginning, I didn't particularly have the goal of wanting you to have other men, just because it wasn't something that did it for me. It didn't turn me on. Like, you know, a lot of men, like they get turned on by their women being with other men, and that's great. Like I was able to help facilitate that for other people. So I know what that feels like, but I knew I didn't feel like that for myself. But I knew that whatever structure that we had, I wanted you to be able to feel fulfilled and not feel like you had to put something that you wanted to the side for the sake of me. That would never feel good for me. And so I've always been willing to, if that was something that you really wanted, be open to exploring how that can make sense for the both of us. And I think that when people are figuring this all out, it needs to be fair, and you need to be open to making sure that your partner's needs are fulfilled as well, and not that they have to sacrifice a bunch of things for you. So I know what comes up sometimes is, well, I know y'all have women, but y'all don't have men. So don't you want men and all of that? And if you ever did, we would have that conversation and we would figure out how to navigate that and figure out how to make it enjoyable for the both of us. It just so happens that women is enough for us, and women is what we really enjoy together. And we can have that homie bond, because I'm not bi, so I don't like men. I'm not attracted to men, so we can't connect in that way. So it's really just about, I say all that to say, it's really about getting in there and figuring out what y'all desires are and doing it together.
Yeah, and I think you would see a lot, it's more common that men feel that way when they're in these open relationships or exploring whatever type of version of it, of they don't want their women with other men. And I was having this really awkward back and forth with a friend of mine where they felt uncomfortable hearing about my relationship dynamic with you, because they felt it wasn't balanced because I didn't have men in the picture. Like I wasn't able to, like I wasn't allowed to see other men. And it's not that I'm not allowed to, it's that I don't desire it. And at first, you know, when we were talking about opening up, I like thought about it, and, you know, I was like looking online and like seeing, like, let me see if I can find like something that I'm interested in. And it just never happened. And the more I thought about it and the more we spoke about it, you know, you expressed to me that it's not something that we can bond over. And that's my favorite part about this whole thing, is just being able to talk to you about it and to laugh about it and talk about like what turns us on about this person, what we really like what's something that we learned. And if I can't have that with you because it makes you uncomfortable, I don't want it. I just don't desire it.
Right.
And also, you're all the man I need. You're all the man I need and want. And I expressed earlier that I'm bisexual, and I didn't really have an equal experience between dating men and dating women before you. I only had like one real type of relationship or situationship with another woman before you. So doing this, it really allows me to explore and balance out my bisexuality. And I really do love just feminine energy. It helps ground me. It helps me feel more creative when I'm surrounded by that. So I just don't desire it at all, being with another man.
Right.
And if it comes up, I know that I can talk to you about it. But as of right now, it's not something that I'm not doing for you or to appease you or because I feel like this wouldn't work anymore. I just actually don't desire it.
Right.
And that's okay. It could be the other way around. Like we have someone that we see where them and their partner, they see completely different people separately because they have completely different types. And it just depends on, you and your relationship and your agreement. That agreement and just figuring out those parameters of what works for you, what doesn't. Okay, we tried that, this didn't work. Those agreements are really what matters.
Right.
It really defines that's what really defines loyalty in your relationship. I think a lot of people look at loyalty like monogamy. I think that's just like a overall blanket understanding of loyalty for most people in relationships. And I see loyalty as having an agreement and sticking to it.
Right.
So if our agreement is A, B, C, and D, and all of a sudden you add E in there, then I would view you as being disloyal because you're adding something in that was not mutually discussed, agreed upon, and tried.
Right. And I hear that a lot, the disloyalty because you have another partner. How is it disloyal if we've communicated this is what's going to happen and we both agree that this is all good? That's not disloyal. And so I think people also need to focus on their relationship and not others. What others do in structuring their relationship is them. There's nothing wrong with that. If that doesn't resonate with you, that's cool. It just don't align with what you want to do. But to try to shame others for what they want or to try to make your relationship look like others out of fear of judgment or whatever is not okay. It's not cool. Everybody got their own thing and they really need to focus in on that. And then when it pertains to us, the beautiful thing about it is it may change. At some point, we may have a whole bunch of men in the mix throughout the years. Like that could happen. And I think just keeping an open mind and not locking things down to one way of being is a great way of going about it. So you have that freedom and you have that flexibility and knowing that things can evolve over time.
There's a difference between a sacrifice to appease your partner and a sacrifice for the greater good of your relationship. So if I desired to be with other men and you didn't want that for me, but I felt like that was dampering me as a person, as an individual, I feel like that would be, and I didn't do it and I didn't act on it, then that would be a sacrifice for my partner.
Right. But on the flip side, if we had that conversation and I knew that was something that you truly needed to feel fulfilled, even if there was some level of discomfort that I know I would experience, I know for the greater good of our relationship, I would need to make that sacrifice.
Yeah, so that would be the sacrifice of the greater relationship.
Right.
And there's a really big difference there. Slight differences, but important ones that I think one breeds resentment.
Right.
And it breeds the idea of disloyalty or just like maybe like I feel like if I bring this up to him that it would really break his heart or make him feel hurt. So I'm just going to do it and not tell him. But just that secret, it's really, people are energetic, and I think especially between you and I, like if there's even the slightest thing wrong, if we just woke up on the wrong side of the bed or whatever it is, we feel that energetically, and then we just spend all day like, what's wrong? It's just nothing. Yes, there's something wrong until we finally get sick of it and we just open up about it. Energetic will feel it. So if there's this loyalty there, even if we don't know what it is for sure, even if the other person never admits it, that it would be felt. And that's detrimental. That's what kills relationships.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sacrifices along the way definitely must be made. So now that we've talked about relationship structures and how to cater it to what your needs are for your specific relationship, let's talk about the specifics on what we desire sexually as individuals in these relationships. And so I definitely have heard quite a few people talk about maybe the lack of satisfaction they have in their relationships. But the funny thing about it is they're not clear on what it is that they want. So how can you truly really have the satisfying sex that you want in your relationship if you're not really clear on what it is that you want. So one thing that's really helped me is really sitting down with myself and thinking about the desires that I have, whether it's things I've already done in the past or things I've always been curious and interested about but have never acted on. And so sitting down with that and kind of even coming up with a list, you know, and I like to nerd out with this. I like to write down lists. I like to do research and seeing what's out there and available. And that's really helped me open up my palette in terms of what I actually would like. And I've surprised myself along the way, and keeping an open mind in what I like.
I think it's amazing. I think that really tapping into yourself and understanding what you really, like, really want, and not being ashamed of it and allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to vocalize it. It's really important to just take that time for yourself and take your time away from your partner if you're in a relationship, especially a long-term one, and just take yourself out of that and remember you are an individual. Like, what do you as an individual want? What do you desire? And I think identifying that instead of just having a rough draft or like an idea of like, well, I would like this. It's like, no, like specifically, what do you want and why? It makes a really big difference, especially when you're trying to communicate to your partner to get, you know, the results that you're wanting.
Right. And that's all I know for us. When we first got together, it was pretty obvious that we had a dominant submissive dynamic already kind of evolving before our eyes, like immediately. Like I remember on our first date, how you first wrapped your arm around me and kind of cuddled up underneath me. And it was just like you wanting that protection and that leadership as we went through the rest of the course of our date. And so I think even just seeing and being aware of what's kind of unfolding with your partner is a good place to start. Mm-hmm. What are y'all naturally gravitating towards? Yeah. Initially, and not resisting if maybe it's something new for you. Especially
thinking, you know, this is happening too fast. Like you said, this is our very first date. And I remember exactly what you're talking about, you know, just waiting in that line to go into this bar or club and just like feeling safe enough to just like, you know, cuddle in your arms and just be held by you. I did feel safe, and it was really cool to be able to feel that and act on it and it be received, right. Without, you know, it being clouded with, well, what is she doing? I just met this person. Right. 'Cause like going back to, you know, just energetically, you feel it. You just know, you know, I feel safe here. I feel supported here. I can express myself here. It makes a big difference in that.
Right. And then the first time we had sex, again, it was just blatantly obvious. Okay, there's definitely a level of dominance coming from my side. And I was inspired to be more dominant because I felt your submissive energy, and you were able to receive my dominant energy and welcome it and encourage it, and tell me things to let me know that you wanted me to dominate you. And so we were able to quickly have that conversation. And I knew it was something that I was interested in. Like I knew I would want to explore that with my partner. But by you communicating to me how you felt about it, I was more comfortable with just being straight up with you. Like, yo, I really want to explore being a dom. I want to explore you being my submissive, and us really seeing what that could look like. Even though neither of us really knew what the hell we were doing, just not being afraid to just jump into it and learn together in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think the basis of just good communication is feeling safe, just feeling comfortable enough to just say what you really want. Right. And just like knowing no matter what I say to this person, like even if they don't agree with it or want to do it, I won't be judged for it or shamed for it. Right. That makes a really big difference in just going after what you really want, especially when you're in a new relationship or even in a long-term relationship. I think with long-term relationships, you have, you know, these routines and the same thing that you're doing and that you're used to, and shifting that can feel uncomfortable. But I think just having that baseline of I'm safe to communicate what I truly desire it's so vital.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about your partner judging you in a negative way. If you communicate a desire of yours, as freaky or as kinky as it may be, and they judge you harshly for it and make you feel bad, that might not be the person for you. That's not the proper mindset. Even if they don't agree and want to do it, that's completely fine. But to judge you negatively and put you down and your desires and your fantasies, that's not okay. So in my opinion, I wouldn't want to really be with somebody like that. So you shouldn't have to have that fear about being judged so harshly by your partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So once you got that out the way and know that they're not going to judge you, then yeah, be open, lay it all out. Have those conversations. They're fun.
They're fun.
They're fun. So we were able to quickly identify that we were interested in a dom sub dynamic, and also that we wanted to have some threesomes. Those were the two main things that we got into knowing really quickly. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, in terms of threesomes and opening up our relationship to other people, that took a little while to develop because of COVID and everything. But we had plenty of time to explore other things for ourselves.
Yeah.
In that time.
And I think a lot of stuff, I don't want to get too into it, but a lot of stuff about our relationship just happened very quickly. Just even how quickly we said I love you, or just even felt that I love you. It happened within weeks, and it really just kind of shifted our comfort level and just like what we are communicating, because we created that baseline so early on. And I think that's a really, really cool thing. Yeah.
So when we first started having conversations about our specific sexual desires and interests and how we wanted to go about, I guess, shaping our sex life, one thing I just thought that was a good idea was to ask you certain questions and get you to answer them in Apple Notes. And so I can really sit down and look at it, and we can review together in terms of things that would really help us better understand each other and our desires, so that we can facilitate those specific things and not just kind of be out here figuring it out and fumbling around. Though there's nothing wrong with that either, but just having some kind of structure, I knew was really beneficial for us. So you want to go over the list?
Yeah, absolutely. I also think it was so helpful, like receiving that. I've never been with someone who like asked me really specific questions like this to it really helped create the foundation of our relationship and what we desired. And we, like you said, you put in the Apple Notes, and we were both able to edit it and add to it and refer to it throughout the beginnings of our relationship. So the questions that he asked were what are things you enjoy sexually? What are sexual things you want to try? What are your soft no's? What are your hard no's? What kind of non-sexual things make you feel good? What kind of things make you happy in a relationship? And what would you like in a relationship that you haven't had in the past?
Right. And so let's quickly go over the hard nose and soft nose. Mm-hmm. And so for those who don't know, a hard no is something you absolutely have no interest in whatsoever. You know, this is a boundary for you that you are not comfortable stepping over. And so knowing that is very helpful. So you can just get those off the table. You don't have to worry about feeling any pressure to delve into anything you don't feel good about. And then soft no's are things that you're open to. The idea is intriguing to you, but you know at this present time it's not something that you're ready to explore, but it is something that's on the table, so that eventually you might want to explore that at some point. So you keep that in the soft nose category. And what else do we have?
Things you enjoy sexually.
Yeah, I think it's good to know already things that you like.
Yeah,
so
what
that
you
we
desire.
can continue to do those things and expand upon that.
Yeah, and being upfront about your sexual desires. Like, this is what I'm into. This is what I would like to try with you. And are you interested in that? What else are you interested in?
Right. And no kink shaming. Kink shaming. That's super important just for your relationship, so that you have that healthy level of communication and knowing no matter what I say to this person, they are not going to judge me negatively. Whether I'm talking about sexual desires, whether I'm talking about my life goals, whatever it is, you got to have that level of comfortability. So no kink shaming, please.
Just no shaming or judging in general in your relationship. Your partner should be the one person you can go to and not feel judgment from.
Right.
The next question was, what are sexual things you want to try?
Yeah, I think that's really beneficial, so that we have things to aim towards and look forward to. And there's still plenty of things on our list that we haven't checked off yet. Plenty of things we have. But yeah, still plenty of things that we haven't checked off yet. And we know kind of our general roadmap of what we want to go to. So it's exciting for what's to come.
Absolutely. You already went over soft nose and hard nose. The next one was, what kind of non-sexual things make you feel good? And this was such a powerful question for me, because it's like, we can go on a list of, things that turn me on, that get me off, that help me reach climax. But just touch, physical touch that makes me feel good, that's not sexual. It's so important, especially being someone whose love language is physical touch. And being able to list that out, and for you to read that and know that and then do it. It just makes me feel, it makes me feel so seen and heard and loved.
Right.
In a way that I never really experienced before.
Right. And I thought that question was important so that you can establish that level of love and support for your partner without sex being in the equation. So there's that level of comfort to where when you do incorporate sexual activities into the mix, you've already developed such a strong connection with that person that it's a lot easier to explore those things. So I wanted to know those things and make sure I'm being active in making you feel good in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What kind of things make you happy in a relationship? Again, a big one. Just like, what do you desire for your happiness? Like, what do you need from your partner to amplify your happiness? It was a really, again, another powerful question. I think that happiness, you shouldn't depend on your partner for happiness, but your partner should amplify that part of you.
Right. And what else we got?
We have, last question was, what would you like in a relationship that you haven't had in the past?
Yeah, that's another really good one. Again, just so we know what our goals are, what are we looking to strive? And so that to make sure that I'm fulfilling your needs, to make sure that you're getting everything that you want out of the relationship, that you know that you feel seen, that you feel heard, that I'm attending to the things that you need, and vice versa with me. I just think it helps round out everything on such a higher level. Yeah,
I think for me coming into this relationship, again, this is my first like real committed relationship. This is not your first one. So I think for you, it was really eye-opening to see someone who has been in a long-term relationship and experience and know what was lacking, and to be able to communicate, this is what I wanted before and was not able to have, and this is now a non-negotiable for me. This is what I know I need because I know from experience.
Right.
I think that is so powerful to have.
Yeah, and just even thinking about that, I think my last relationship failed so miserably in a lot of areas because none of these things were identified. There was no goal. We were just doing some shit, but with no specific outcome in mind, and just fumbling in the dark, trying to make it better and wondering why it never did. We didn't know, we weren't clear on our desires and our goals. So where can we go without a map? You know?
Yeah, it's important to really identify what you really want and just be clear on that on an individual level, and then going into it with your partner. What do y'all want? What do y'all need in order to have extreme success and happiness in your life?
Right.
And fulfillment.
Right. And so, yeah, those questions were extremely beneficial for us. So definitely encourage the listeners at home to take a look at those questions. Ask your partner these questions. Ask yourself these questions. Even if you're single, know what you want when you go into your new relationships with others, to make sure these needs are being felt. So definitely try that out. Yeah. And let us know. Hit us up and let us know. I'm really curious to see how those help other people.
Yeah, and we'll put these questions in our show notes and also on our website.
So in closing for today's episode, we talked about a lot, and we chose to have this as episode 2 because this is a foundational area that really sets the table for what happens in the future for everyone in their relationships. And whether that's with a committed partner or whether you're single out here just exploring yourself sexually, knowing what you want in your relationships with others, knowing what you want for yourself personally, sexually, and what your partner wants. You got to know these things before you do the thing. And so closing, really invest that time into yourself and with your partner and be clear. And I promise you, you'll enjoy things on such a higher level.
Yes, really connect with who you are. Identify what you want for yourself before going into your relationship, or maybe take a step back from your relationship and redefine those things for yourself, and then redefine that or just define that for your relationship. I think that it would make you and your partner or partners, it will create a strong bond and connection for you all.
Absolutely. So if you enjoyed this episode, definitely share it with a friend, share it with your partner, get the word out. It's all about communication. It's all about evolution. That's what we're moving towards. Thank y'all for checking out another episode with us. We're just getting started. Plenty more on the way to come. Make sure you check us out online, also on Instagram and YouTube at Both Sides of the Bed. You can also reach us individually. What's your IG handle?
At Basirah __.
And mine is Ahmir _Rashad. So thank you again for tuning in to Both Sides of the Bed.
Stay tuned for the sexy.
Stay tuned for the sexy.